Hello, game changers and soul warriors. I have something that is mind-bending and very important to talk about today. So here's the thing. I did a prediction last year of the year of 2025, and everything has pretty much happened so far that I predicted would happen in that year. And I've been getting the nudge to do 2026. But before I dive into that, I want you to understand something. Spirit's time is not our time. Our time was built on a false timeline, okay? So when we say a year, ooh, I'm getting a lot of chills. Spirit says, it might fluctuate. Okay, so when I talked about 2025, we're still bringing some of those through, is what Spirit said. So this one that I'm about to bring you, y'all, it gets deep. It gets deep. Okay, I got some downloaded information about what's coming this year, some specific information about the Pope and religion and what truly happened, which I do know, okay? I have been undoing that stuff. I need you to understand is that I don't just channel these things. I'm not just a prophet or any of those other titles. Since 2019, I've been doing the work. In 2022, I undid the Holy Grail. I didn't know what that was. I had no idea who the heck even John the Apostle was. But he comes in this. Okay? There's a reason. Last year, in 2025, I talked about Pope John Paul II for a reason. And I got some detailed information about what's coming this year with it. Okay, right before Easter this last year, I undid the Sistine Chapel Part 1, and then I undid the Sistine Chapel Part 2, which was not what you think it was at all. The judicial system was after that. They are connected. They are intertwined. Everybody looks to the White House as the darkness. It is only a tentacle of the darkness. And that is why Trump made it through, because he was not a part of their agenda. It's not about us liking him. He followed his path regardless, okay? And sometimes that means we have karma to clear. That is actually what that means a lot. So he did his. He served his purpose. And that was to draw out a lot of this yuck with everything that's happening. And it's very much so happening. So I got the entire year in review for 2025 or 2026. But I need you to hear this, because 2026 equals the number 10. 2027 equals the number 11. So those two are kind of combining, okay, in this information that I got. So probably what I'm saying will continue into 2027, because what God is calling this is like new beginnings into new earth, okay, a rebirth into new earth. 2026 into 2027, a rebirth into new earth is the theme of that. And the Exodus of Egypt. Okay, so I channeled 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pages of stuff for this next year. And it's good. Are you ready? Drum roll. So, before Easter, I did undid the Sistine Chapel. So sorry. Let me go backwards a little bit. Last year, I talked about the predictions for 2025, including Pope John Paul II, that we were going to see truths, okay? And I didn't understand that, because I know that that was not our current Pope's name, but there's a reason that came up, and there's a reason it came up again. So I asked Spirit completely, why am I saying that name? And I got an answer. Boy, did I, okay? I'm like, and I'm still processing it. So we're going to have to process this together. Like, that is very true. By the way, my name is Master Juniper Bloom Mystique. I am an Ascension Master, a Master Healer, and a Divine Guide. I had a Kundalini awakening in 2019, and this entire channel is all of the return work I've been doing, not just talking about, but actually doing the work. And it was beautiful and painful, and it involved my twin flame, and it is a twin flame journey for a reason. Okay, because the return is about return of the light. It's about the return of the divine masculine and the divine feminine. Okay, so there's a lot of details to it. There's a lot of things to understanding what we're going through, what's coming, All right? And to fully understand some of the messages I'm about to bring you for the next year into the next 2 years. Okay? Whatever that means. Remember, Spirit's time is not our time. Look at the play of the light. It's an angel. It's the light, but it's an angel. I love it. Isn't that beautiful? Look at that. Oh, that's so pretty. Do you see that? Do y'all see the lights doing something funny right there? I do. It's cool. Anyways, as I burn this incense too far down, you can see like the reflections of the lights. It was doing it too with the incense. I'm not going to say that's spiritual. It's just like a play on the light, I guess you could call it. What do they call that? Retraction, light retraction stuff. But it's still really cool. And something to say, wow, looky. However, I will tell you, we are not the only ones here. We never have been. Ever. That's just a limitation. If you think they landed on the moon once, think twice. Actually, they landed more than that. That was just an illusion, and it was about money laundering. But I channeled about the moon landing, too, because I healed the moon, and Horus returned, and Sekhmet returned when I dried the Nile, and when I undid the Sistine Chapel, part 2, right after that, I had showed you how the Pope was going to die, and his soul was removed, and then I said a heart attack, and a sudden heart failure, and that's exactly what happened on Easter. Why does that matter? Trust me, it does. Okay, so all of these things are on this channel. All of these things are on the playlist that I have on this channel. And they're so important to watch because I'm not making this stuff up. It's right there in front of us, and I'm blown away. I'm like, look what I did. Look what's coming through, and I have to process it. So I'm going to ask you to do the same thing, okay? Process it. Give yourself time to process it. Time to look through all the things before you think you know, because we are limited in our perspective here. We've had a veil of illusion and confusion and a false world that we've been having to navigate through that didn't want us to see the truths. So I'm not sitting here telling you have to believe me. What I'm telling you is give yourself time to process, because that's the way a true awakening occurs. And I probably will spark that for you if you allow it to unfold continually, and don't bring in judgment and don't bring in expectations, because those are our limitations. Those blind us, and we can't see past them, okay? Because we don't know. I did not know. I could not make this stuff up if I tried, okay? 2025, I told you there was going to be mass fires, but I also said Spirit's not going to want you to know where, because that causes fear, and there was. Everything that I talked about, the false concept of time for trains, our train system, airplane crashes, I mentioned that, and they were continual throughout the entirety of the year pretty much. Like all of the things I pretty much said last year have come true, and Spirit says they're still coming. Okay, so that's what I'm trying to tell you about this time frame. I can sit here and say, ooh, our weekly reading, I do that, but like, is it a week? That's a limitation, right? Everybody's time frames are different. Time is not the same here as it is on the other side. It's just not. We are in a dense energy, a very much so constricted space where time is much more expansive. Okay? So when I say a year, trust me when I tell you it can go into 2 and maybe even into 3. But the only thing they mentioned this time was 26 and 27. The year of number 10, new beginnings, rebirth, into number 11, new earth. Okay, so we have 10, 11, 12, and 13 coming, right? 2026 is 10, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 2027 is 11, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So 2028, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And 2029, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Why is that significant? Because 13 is heaven on earth. So this could be going from 2026, 2027, 2028, and 2029. Okay? Because we have 10, 11, 12, and 13. Does that mean I won't do another predictions thing next year? I will. But I'm telling you, this is standing out for a reason. So by 2030, the end has come, is what I'm thinking. But I don't know. I don't like to put time frames on that. But for some reason, I mean, I know we're in it. I know every decision you've been making already has determined where you're going. But, right, no matter what's about to unfold, people think they have this false illusion of time. And you needed to be doing the work the entire time. You still do. But for some reason, this is what's standing out. Okay, hear me. 2026 is number 10. 2027 is number 11. 2028 is number 12. And 2029 is number 13. 13 is the 13th gate. Heaven on earth. That's the final portal I opened after I dried the Nile in the energy, after we activated the masculine pyramids. During my journey, my DM and I, okay? After we undid the Holy Grail, we activated the masculine pyramids. I did the feminine ones prior to the Holy Grail undoing. Processed Jesus' death. Then we did the masculine pyramids. Then we did the Sekhmet and Horus timeline. The Nile dried, Horus returned. And then it went into Adam and Eve timeline, and we birthed New Earth, and I undid Catholicism, the money matrix, all of those things. Okay, so I want you to understand the way the work it was done. The way the work unfolded and the way the work was done during my own awakening work is the way it's going to unfold on earth. Okay? And whatever reason, God is pointing to 2026 being number 10. Significant. 2027, number 11. And then he says rebirth into new earth. So we're purging. We're in the path of Exodus. We're in the path of purge. But also Judgment Day is rising. And then we have 2012 and 2013. 2013, that did not make sense at all. 2028, which is number 12, and 2029, which is 13. Did I lose you already? Because this is what's coming through right away for us to take note of for a reason. So 2026, 2027, 2028, 2029, and then 2030 is outside of that 13th gate. Okay, I feel like that's they're wanting me to show that for a reason, and they wanted me to talk about time for a reason. So when I'm predicting this next year, I want you to know that these things are going to continue. Okay, this is very important for the next, possibly through 2028. I don't know. What stuck out this time was 26 and 27. Okay, 10 and 11. So for the information I've got coming through. But again, please don't stick to just this little limited time frame. Okay? But they're not pointing past 2030 too much. So I don't know. Okay? Those are coming through for a reason. So when I dried the Nile, God said there's 13 gates, not 12. There's never been 12. They cut off the 13th, which is heaven on earth. That's when I got the download, and then I got the download of Revelations 21:12 and 21:13, which I ended up rebuilding the north, east, south, and the west, and connecting the west back to the north and healing the earth. Then we rebirthed the earth, and the Adam and Eve timeline came through. This is all very real, okay? And I'm telling you this because recently I did a painting of volcanoes erupting and the buffalo running. And then I channeled, and I do these in my creative flow workshops. There are our soul healing and our soul processing. Then I channeled the new earth coming in, all the light coming in, and then rising into the eye of the sun. Okay, so why is this happening now? As the sun is coming in, these earthquakes are getting heightened, and volcanoes are erupting all over the place, including one in Egypt that hadn't erupted in recorded history. So these are all significant, okay? So let's hear this. 2026 predictions. Everything I've said so far matters. So I'm going to take a little pause for a second. I'm going to slow down for a second. Everything I've said so far matters. So don't try to judge it. Don't try to understand it all. Just let's put it in our pocket. A prediction, a psychic prediction, cannot be received through expectation. It must be received through observation and omnipresence. So we put it in our pocket and we allow it to unfold for what Spirit meant it to be, not what we think it should be. Okay? What Spirit means it to be, we allow it to process. We open our heart and we fully receive, and we allow the true meaning to process through. Okay? It should spark some healing, some awakening, and some processing. If it sparks judgment, heal it. That's your shadow. Because I'm not lying. I'm not making this up. I couldn't make this up if I tried. I was not religious. I wasn't even spiritual before my awakening. I attributed it to people who did a lot of drugs because that was my experience growing up. I knew there was something wrong with spiritualism. I knew there was something wrong in religion. Nothing felt right, and there's a reason. There was shadow shrouded in both, in all of it, the entire world. So true spiritualism is not shrouded in shadow. We cannot be duality anymore. We cannot carry the shadow through this work anymore. We cannot do it. So judgment is not of God. So if judgment day comes up, remember that is a false depiction. God calls it you reap what you sow day. It's about you reaping what you sow because karma is real. So we have to heal our karma, be clear of all those lessons outside of love, a whole soul of self to rise to new earth. Okay? All right. Beautiful. So we release all judgment expectations. Whew, that is smoky. We needed that cleansing. Look at that. Look at them apples. Ooh, apples. Poison apples. Temptations. Judgments, temptations. The incense I lit is the lotus. So it smells like lotus. It's beautiful. Lotus is also significant. All of my paintings that I've done come through my creative workshop flows, which are our soul cleansing. They are soul path cleansers. So they come through the blueprint of our soul. Okay? They've all been about new earth and clearing what was coming, and it's been pretty amazing. The rainbow path is your soul path. That's what that means. They actually called it the golden rainbow path. Right? Anyways, let's get into 2026 predictions. But remember, it's not just 2026. Okay? So what I'm hearing is it is the path of the Exodus of Egypt. Okay? I've shown a lot of that work that I've done. Mount Sinai was energetically blown up, which all the work that I do circles back into our reality. That's the way it is. Everything done in the ethereal manifestations circle back into your reality. We create it in the energy, and like a cogwheel, it like comes back around. Okay, that's what karma is. We create things in the energy. If they aren't aligned with love, it just kind of repeats, right? Because it's not a flow. Does that make sense? Okay. So what's done in the energy is circling back around. So when I say I cleared the Sistine Chapel, well, it looks the same, but it's not. Okay? There's no coincidence to doing that work, processing the Holy Grail, doing all of that stuff, clearing it out. It was not of light. And then the Pope dying on Easter. What was Easter? We're going to talk about some very important stuff of the Pope again. I talked about it last year in 2025, not knowing what was coming with undoing the Sistine Chapel or any of that. Okay? And we've got more to talk about with that in the end of this conversation. So this is actually a truly important video. Okay? It really, really is. And I can't wait for it to unravel. Truly, I'm always like, oh, what does that mean? Oh, and then we watch it and we're like, oh, that's what that meant. Okay. This excites me because I got some information I did not understand even last year about the words Pope John Paul II. Why does that matter when that is not our current Pope's name? I got pure clarity in that this year. Last year I was like, oh, that's not right. Something's wrong. But it was right. Okay? And again, we cannot judge it. We cannot bring expectations. We don't know. We have to allow Spirit to show us clarity. We have to allow space for processing of this information, or you will not do it justice, because the truth, the light, those things are outside of that veil of illusion, and it's outside of our limited space of mind. We need to be more in omnipresence in the now only to receive the totality of what truly is. Okay? Otherwise, all this other stuff will throw us off, and it brings murky into the clarity. Does that make sense? And the shadow always wants you judging this. It wants you in fear. That's not God. Okay? 2026 predicted review. Along comes the biggest changes. So what Spirit said very loudly is, if you think we've gone through changes so far, think again. It's only going to get bigger and more powerful and more palpable. And this is where you're going to clearly see the divide. Okay? You've already been dividing. Everybody says, ooh, we're going into the great divide. You're just going to see it now, because we will not be able to connect with light and dark anymore. Those that go on one side will not connect with those on the other side. The divide is of darkness and light. That's what I've been doing since the beginning of my journey, is removing all darkness from light, and we are returning the light only to earth. That's the Exodus of Egypt path. Okay? Where is the Nile? Where is the Tigris River? Where are all of these things? Okay, it does make sense. So along comes the biggest changes. The earth shakes and rearranges. So there will be a lot of earthquakes and a lot of volcanoes erupting this year. Remember my paintings? Volcanoes with buffalo rising. They're like running. They're trying to escape, but I couldn't paint like 100 buffalo. I've shown that painting before. It's on my wall over there, which is why I keep pointing over there. It's a 3-piece painting. It's the volcanoes erupting and a white buffalo in the middle was significant. And it represented all the animals running, dissipating. Okay, there's been a lot of people talking about animals acting very strange, and they also come in. Okay, I got something about animals coming this year as well. So this is big stuff. Okay, this is a death of the earth. However, the earth is not going to just completely die. It's just everything that it was has to. Okay? Because it's changing, it's expanding, it's returning to light. So the earth will also correct herself. And that's a death. But it's also a rebirth. 10. The year of rebirth. 10. Rebirth into new earth. 10, 11. Rebirth into new earth. 12, 13. New earth. Okay, so leadership falls from what we once knew, and to stay the course is what you must do. So remember, I channeled all this, so sometimes I'm like, and sometimes my handwriting like totally changes, because like I receive the information from different wavelengths or different beings, and I'm like, okay. So along comes the biggest changes. The earth shakes and rearranges. This is going into this year. Biden's death will soon come through. I predicted that for last year. It's still coming very soon. So this is what I tell you when you say, oh, it didn't happen in 2025, sweetheart. Their time is not our time. We have to understand that. Like, it's so expansive. So along comes the biggest changes. The earth shakes and rearranges. And I can hear, well, that's obvious. He's old. Yeah, but it's bigger than that, okay? Leadership falls from what we once knew, and stay the course is what you must do. So no matter what is happening around you, going into chaos will not serve you. This is why you need a foundation built in light only, because if you haven't been doing that work and your foundation is not in pure light, new earth, it's going to be a difficult time going forward, okay? Catholicism started coming in, and then in the end of this, I channeled deeply about what it is, okay? So listen, because I undid the Sistine Chapel in 2 parts. The first part, I freed the cherubim angels. It's on this channel. I had to process that. I didn't understand that. They were trapped underneath. Where the Pope stands on this like podium, I saw that, and then the floor. Wait, I think first the painting started peeling where the angels were. That's what they showed me. And so that happened. Then I anointed it with like the blood of Christ. I like flicked this blood all over the chapel. And then it opened up the floor. And it was all pure red lava. That's what it looked like. And then the angels that were trapped there, I set them free. And then I had to process that they were the cherubim angels. Why is that significant? This is probably why I was nudged to share that yesterday in the comment section or the community section. Because the cherubim angels were the protectors of Adam and Eve, the Garden of Eden. So why would they trap them? Protection gone. because it's going to make more sense as I go. Catholicism. But I also want you to not put that in just to a little bubble. Do you understand? Because they're going to be like, see, it's just Catholicism. All religions. Stop dividing. Stop dividing. We've had to call all those symbols back to the light. Nothing will remain that anymore. I need you to understand that. You guys, the Great Reset is not metaphorical. It's very real. We cannot be divided. You cannot use God's word as a weapon of mass destruction anymore. And if you don't think Catholicism and all religions did that, think again. Okay, because that's what they did. But to understand that is to understand the undoing of the Holy Grail, to actually watch that and process what that was, what really happened to Jesus, because we're going to dive back into that, okay? So I need you to understand this. Listen very carefully, and please don't let judgment get to you, because I can prove everything. It's truly in your heart of hearts. It's in your soul. It's in your blueprint, okay? I promise you it's in there. Catholicism, the rise and fall. Time to see the truth of it all. It's time for the world to see the truth. Came through for this year. That's the theme of this year again. Because when I was doing the work, I said everything has to shake to the surface to be seen first, and then it falls. We have to see it in our consciousness, and then it falls. So even those who didn't wake up are going to see, but they're going to have no choice but to reap what they sow. Okay? We just have to. We have to go where our choices led us to go. So Catholicism, the rise and fall. Time to see the truth of it all. Biden's death will allow more truths to rise. This is why it was significant when it came through last year, and it's still significant now. So he may have already died. We just don't know it yet. Why that's coming through, I don't know, but I just said it. Biden's death will allow more truths to rise because they lose the illusion of a past disguise. This is beyond just Biden. I need you guys to understand that. Biden is just a puppet for a reason. And see, Trump was not. So you may not like him. I've channeled all about Trump. I also kind of helped protect him and guide him in. I told you he would be in before he was. They lose the illusion of past disguise. General fear will be loud. General fear will be loud. Fear is not of God. So that's why that's coming through. It's going to be loud across the collective soul. Which sucks because I work on the crisis line. So that means it's just going to be more amplified. Okay. General fear will be loud and clear as the world shakes and quakes and dies. So let me go back. 2026, number 10. 2027, number 11, rebirth into new earth. 2012 brings me to day 7 of birthing new earth, where there were 12 trumpets, angels playing the trumpets, and 3 mass events will have caused people to look up. And then the 8th day was new earth, and we walked through the portal. My painting is the volcanoes erupting, the earthquakes and all of that, the animals running from them. The middle section was new earth, the light coming in, which is all of what's causing all this to happen. And then the final painting was an eye of the sun and the moon with the angel wings, and my DM and I walking the golden rainbow path into the center of the eye. So this is significant. Okay, we are in the end of times. But your ego wants you to think that that's like tomorrow. We're just in it every day. But it's pointing to 2020, 2030 is the final outcome. But that doesn't mean, oh, I have until 2029 to worry about this. First of all, God would not ask you to worry. He's been asking you to pay attention and do the work the entire time. Those that rise will hear the call in their heart, and they will push past that resistance, and they will follow the nudges of the heart. That's the difference. Those are the ones who are love focused. Okay? Not judgment focused, not ego, not greed, not fear, but love will guide their way, including self-growth. So Biden's death will allow more truths to rise because they lose the illusion of a past disguise. General fear will be loud and clear as the world shakes and quakes and dies. General fear will be loud and clear as the world shakes and quakes and dies. A rebirth in the making. Now, if you've watched all of my other work, the pyramid activations and the octaving and all of that, I did some significant work at these places that I'm about to mention. This is what came in after this. So shakes and quakes and dies. A rebirth in the making. Mount Vesuvius, Kilimanjaro has 3 points, by the way, and I blew them all up. Mount Shasta, which was the red dragon, it is cut off from life support. It was not of light. Did that before I activated the pyramids. And then Mount Sinai I recently did in the Exodus of Egypt series. It was very significant, and that's also supposedly where the 10 Commandments came through for what's his name. And I went there recently in the Exodus of Egypt workshop. It was like a workshop series, and that was one of the days that I've been trying to show you guys have been occurring. A deep shaking, a release of what was forsaken. Power outages to gas lines breaking. So, boof. I see boof. I see lots of boof. Or leakage. All of a sudden, like you're going to have gas lines breaking. Let's listen to that again. Power outages to gas lines breaking. And infrastructure that is not aligned will continue breaking. Power outages, because I've talked about the power lines are not our true power grid. It's the pyramids that have all been returned and realigned and healed, and the crystalline grid underneath that carries that light of the sun. Think of it like a solar power grid. That's what God's always shown me as I was activating the pyramids and stuff. The sun comes in and it feeds the energy of the earth. There's not a coincidence that they've tried to cut us off from all of this stuff, okay? Power lines are not our power system grid. They are not our true power system grid. They're toxic to the earth. They don't align, okay? So as new earth energy comes in, I've talked about this, things will burn and fall and crumble because they don't align. So power outages and gas lines breaking, and infrastructure that is not aligned will continue breaking. Movies of truth revealed to you. So I have talked about before how it's going to come through our social media because that's what we are so focused on also. But that's why it's been a breakdown of that system ahead of all this too. So more truths, and more truths have been rising through that. Have you heard the documentary with 50 Cent and P. Diddy? I channeled about who killed Tupac 3 years ago, I think, during the beginning of this journey. And I said it was Puff Daddy and Suge Knight. And so now in 50 Cent's documentary, they even said it. He hired somebody, like I said, there was money involved. He even stole a ring. He had something stolen to prove his death, to prove that they did it, and then he didn't pay it out. Like, and I said this had to do with payouts, this had to do with money and hush money and things. And so 50 Cent recently did that documentary exposing something, but some of us already knew this in our soul level. I'm telling you, everything I've done is like truly like, oh, look, I did that like 5 years ago. Oh, look, I did that like 3 years ago. And I'm like, oh, that's why it's so important to listen to everything I say. So movies of truth revealed to you what was always used against you. So we're going to have some more revelations coming through our media. A sudden truth you can't deny. A rise of a darkened sky. 3 days of darkness. Would that really be a 3 years of darkness? 27, 28, 29, 26, 27, 28, and then 29 is new earth. Look at that. So here we are, 3 days of darkness again. A sudden truth you can't deny. A rise of a darkened sky. So would it be 3 years? 26, 27, 28, because 2029 is the 13th. That's new earth. So it could be the next 3 years of darkness. It is. So 3 days of darkness is 3 years of darkness, my friends. 3 days of darkness to 3 years of darkness. But again, Their time is not our time. Okay. A sudden truth you can't deny, and a rise of a darkened sky, and I'm hearing in the blink of an eye. Judgment day will soon be upon you, or you reap what you sow day will soon shine through. So we are going into the 3 years of darkness. Then I heard animals, some won't make it through. So those that rose with me would know, because this is the only one I didn't record at that time because of what was happening. But there was a group of us, and I took the animals through all 13 portals. And some would make it. I think we started at about like portal 6. Some wouldn't make it through. Some were genetically modified too much. Some were not even true animals. So there are things out there that are not true to God's connection. Okay. And then some of the animals were like poisoned and genetically modified. And I was able to heal some of the DNA of them, but not all. I don't know why sharks are sticking out to me, but some animals will not make it through. Okay, and that's starting to heighten through this energy in this year coming forward. Okay, keeping going on now. There's more. A sudden turn from the world you knew, and a new light will come shining through. Path of the exodus of Egypt. Things will only get stronger, bigger, and more seen. A power shift that has been in the making. We're in the 3 years of darkness. Religion must fall from whence it came. Judgment day, this will not remain. Religion must fall from whence it came. Judgment day, this will not remain. Why is that so significant? 2022, I processed the Holy Grail, and I reunited the soul level of Jesus and Mary Magdalene, and I cleared that. Right before that, we brought down the blood of Christ. That was very, 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 very real and very significant, and you can't do that without having something major change. And it points back to religion. Why? Let me explain why. Because if you really know what happened to Jesus, he didn't die on a cross. The cross broke from the Ankh. The Ankh broke when they ripped apart Jesus' soul. Jesus was a twin soul, divine masculine, divine feminine. But let's go back to Adam and Eve, shall we, where it began. The ripping apart of the souls. The suppression of the feminine, I talked about this, and then they stole the soul of the masculine when it went to Jesus. Hear me. They are the same soul. Okay? This is significant. Watch the work. You can't deny it. You can't, because if you actually watch it and you allow your heart to be opened and you just allow it to process, just be. You don't have to judge it. You don't have to anything. It will unfold if you just allow the truth to be seen. Because it's in here. It's in the blueprint. It's in the Akasha records. Religion must fall from whence it came. Judgment day, this will not remain. So I also told you the last pope is El Diablo. Why did the one before this one die on Easter? Because that was a false resurrection. It was when they stole his soul. That's their resurrection. So I'm about to deep dive into this, okay? Because this is coming up as very significant. And I told you the darkness will rise at the same time the light rises. We are going into the 3 years of darkness. 2026, 2027, 2028. Okay. Religion must fall from whence it came. Judgment day, this will not remain. Judicial system crumbling. So after I undid the Sistine Chapel, God said it was time to see the true darkness. And then I undid the judicial system, the Supreme Court of Justice, and shackled El Diablo. So listen to this. Judicial system crumbling. The structures they built, the fallen will not break free from. Shackled and bound. United we stand, united they fall. Shackled and bound, justice for all. The very first workshop spoke of united we stand and united they fall. And that was done in 2021, after my awakening. It was the very first workshop I did. I didn't know what I was doing. So just, I never did. But it was like really, so it was like, what is happening? And all these words came through. And one of them was, united we stand and united they fall. Shackled and bound, justice for all. Religion must fall from whence it came. Judgment day, this will not remain. And some of you are going to have a really hard time understanding what religion was. I'm not here to dictate or tell you what to do. I'm just telling you what I've done and what I know is true and what's coming. The structures they built, the fallen will not break free. The structures they built, the fallen will not break free. Shackled and bound, united we stand. We have to come together to rise. And united they fall, shackled and bound, justice for all. Rise of a new earth, return of the divine crown. Then I got more. Genetic modifications started coming through. When I first had my awakening, this takes me back to that. I'm a healer. I was a healer first. That's what I started awakening up to, was all this information. I'm writing a book about it, but I got all these downloads. I saw myself standing in the center of a road with all darkness on one side and all light on the other. I didn't understand that. I saw pillars with the guy behind the pillars. What is that? Abraham Lincoln, right? The monument or whatever it is. And I saw all that crumble. I didn't understand that at first, but when I cleared Mount Shasta, I undid the thing with Abraham Lincoln, Emancipation Proclamation. So all of this actually played out. So I started getting those downloads. Then I started doing healings. Just suddenly I was a healer and I had no idea what I was doing. Okay. It just was coming through. It was so powerful and palpable. And I saw what causes diseases. I saw what caused autism. I was healing things like Parkinson. I was healing major things that I was like, and I can see the entirety of your insides. I can. It's who I am. It's what I've done, but I don't just see it. I'm not just a medical healer. I don't just see these things. I heal them. Okay? So a lot of people go into fear and go, oh my God, she said I have this. She said I have that. It matches with what doctors are showing me in my blood. Like, I've had proof in reality. But if you don't go into fear, it's healing it. That's why I say what I say. That's why what comes through. So here we are back around to genetic modifications. It wasn't Tylenol, okay? Disclaimer, I am not a doctor. I'm not telling you what to believe. YouTube purposes. However, another strange fact. Before I had my awakening, I was in behavioral. I'm a behavioral technician. Meaning I wasn't the one giving the plans. I was the one implementing them with anybody from the age of 18 months to 25 at times. And they were severe behavioral. So they were ones who had a hard time communicating in their reality and would use violence as their ways of communication. And that's what I did. I would have to do holds sometimes. I would have to make sure I knew how to protect myself. Like, hoo-ha-ha, you know what I'm saying? Like, it was real work. Not that anything I do isn't real, but this is what I did. I worked in the autistic field a lot. Okay, and they're amazing. So I had that perspective first. Then when I had my awakening, I saw what causes it. And when they said Tylenol causes it, I'm like, no, they're trying to bypass. It's a cop-out. It's like a, look at this. It's not this. Don't pay attention to the truth behind the curtain. Pay attention to my voice over here. Okay, GMOs for this year and the next few years. We're going into the 3 years of darkness. I just got that validated. Okay, I'm excited. That's why God had me look at the years. Okay. The truth above all, the genetic modifications will rise to fall. Genetic modifications. So if you know anything about the Ascension, we've had to be activating our DNA. The sun's coming in. We're supposed to be activating our DNA. Some people have this illusion that they will just receive it, but you actually have to clear your karma, learn the lessons, heal your soul, call your power back, then you activate, and then you rise, and you keep going, and that's how you get through the portals. Period. I knew that when I cleared all of the work, when I cleared the Nile, I got that download. That's Revelations 21:12. It's what it really talks about. So, but of course, they manipulate God's words to confuse you. God would not do that. The truth above all, the genetic modifications will rise to fall. They cause autism. health and mind issues. So we're going to dive into this a little bit because I want you to understand something. And block you from the moon and the sun. Okay? So if we cannot actively receive, why would that be happening? When I birthed New Earth, the Earth knows our DNA. Our blueprint of the DNA is embedded into the Earth structure. It's embedded into the food the Earth produces because that's our reality. That's our existence. She produces all the medicine we need. Genetic component. Okay? Just like if you plant a plant and you spit in the seeds or you put your skin, so whatever you want to do, you get your DNA with it, that plant is going to be a superfood for you. Connected to your DNA. It's going to know how to heal you. The earth was designed that way through God. Okay, our DNA all aligns to that. It all connects to that. So the earth produces everything we need to heal. Which is why they will say, oh, don't touch those natural plants. All of them are poison. They may cause cancer, yet the medications they give you are killing you more than anything. I'm not here to argue. I'm not a doctor. I'm a master healer. I know what I've done for healings. I know what I've channeled through. I know what I see. I know what it is. I see the entirety of the system of the body. That's true. Okay? I've had many people I do healings on. It's just hard for people to understand that that's possible. I don't have to do blood tests and wait weeks. I can see the entire composition of what makes blood. I scrape your bone marrow. I do all this stuff. It's what I do as a healer. Okay? So there's that. Think about the baseline though. If they change our food, they've been changing our DNA in many forms. All these V's, all these things, that's what they were doing. That's why there was this big push of people saying, don't take that. Why would they push that right before all this sun DNA activations are coming through? Why was all this happening? Because even the Bible, even though some of it's true, some of it's not, will tell you that the world was being governed by darkness. Why would they want to change your genetic modification to fit the earth and what they were so they can anchor into a world stolen further? Why does that have to do with Jesus? Why does it have to do with Easter? Why does it have to do with Pope John Paul II? We're going to get into that in un momento, por favor. El diablo. Okay. This all makes sense to me. So the genetic modifications will rise and fall as they began more. And can we say it's just one thing? It's just genetic modifications. Where are those found? They're actually scattered throughout our system. The food on our planet, the things they're putting into our system, from no matter what that is. Okay? I'm not going to pinpoint. I'm not trying to convince you otherwise. You do you. I'm telling you what I know is true. Okay? I've seen it from every avenue, from every angle. I've seen it from the inside of every person I've done a healing on. I have seen it. I have seen it. I have seen it from the blueprint of the creation of God, of light, of Christ, all of it. I see it to the very minute beginning of life. We're about to head into a reset, which was just like they said, think Big Bang Theory. It's like a sudden flash of light. Boom! Like the flash of an eye. There's a reason they depict walking into the center sun as an eye. The flash of an eye. Okay? Everything will reset. Everything will change. An undoing of what was done. Okay? So genetic modifications. When I know autism, I've worked hand in hand with autistic kids since I was in my 20s. Okay? And I'm no longer in my 20s. Before my awakening, then I had my awakening, and then I did go into the crisis work a little bit more, and because I also broke my wrist, I can't do the other stuff anymore. I just can't. So, I need you to understand this because it comes through. When you think about autism, it's like a detachment from the senses. They can't process their senses like they should be able to. Okay? When you think about God and spiritualism, we receive messages from the universe through every one of our senses. And if we cannot hear, feel, see, sense, understand the expressions outside of this, because verbiage didn't exist like this. It was symbolisms, it was feelings, it's innate capacity to have telepathy. Communications was a whole different system. And that's the new earth. We're rising into a very high vibrational communication system. It's not 5D, it's 7D. So we will be in the totality of our soul capacity. And when you think about autism in this way, you can tell it's genetic modifications. And they will tell you it's not, it's neurological. Dude, come on. Every bit of our creation begins with our DNA. Our cell structure creation and the development in the womb begins with our DNA coming together of the two components. Genetic modifications change the structure of our creation, our food, our body, our mental capacity, our neurological system, which is why even to receive our DNA, our neurological system was healing. In the path to righteousness that I actually put together, you have to heal your entire neurological blueprint. Autism or not, we have to process these things out, okay? In order to truly receive the DNA. Anybody can tell you, ooh, I activated your DNA. But unless you feel it, you experience something, like you should shift, and lessons should rise, and then resistance will rise. It's just most people aren't strong enough to push past that resistance, unfortunately. I've witnessed this time and time again, okay? So genetic modifications will rise and fall. The cause of autism, health, and mind issues. So you're talking about all kinds of genetic modification issues. Okay, all kinds of birth defects, all kinds of other things. And block you from the moon and the sun. If you think about Flint, Michigan, the water was, they were giving you basically poisoned water, and a whole bunch of birth defects arose. So anything that is a structure outside of the pureness of our DNA, the pureness of the earth, will mess with us. It's a baseline genetic modification. I don't know why. Like, it's not hard to see that. Does it come through in V's? Yes. Does it come through in our foods? Yes. Skincare products, hair care products, anything that we ingest and expose ourselves to daily, they've modified. Are there other things around that? Yes, but they've modified so many things. And this is also why animals, and I see cows with like holes in their stomachs, you know, like it's rough. And that was not the way the earth was designed. Okay. And even on my path, I remember blowing up genetic modification farms, GMO farms and things like that. I remember burning them to the ground during the work. It's in the videos on this channel over the years. So they were changing the food structure to align with an earth structured to their DNA, not that of God. Because the crown games, it's about a fight for your soul. Soul battles is spiritual warfare, just like they've been saying the entire time. And we've been rising to a certain point where people understand this. They see this more than they ever used to. And so as these things, and God would say that on the journey, I would say that all the time. It's going to rise in pieces. You're going to see it before it can fall. You've got to start to see it before it can fall. Because God is good. God is not here to punish you like the Bible tells you he is. Why does the Bible do that? Because you've been following a false God. And they use the word and the power of God, which is actually Eve and Adam, through Jesus and Mary Magdalene, through Sekhmet and Horus, and Adam and Eve, the power of God. That's the descendant of God, okay? We're all connected to that light, though, so we all have the ability to access some of that power. But my point is they used that to create a false world. And they used every structure to change it and modify you to fit their structure. Because mankind, they want your power of light. Because without it, they're nothing. So they think. But see, the thing is, let's go back here, shall we? Because in the end of days, all light has been removed from darkness. And all darkness will be shackled and bound. United we stand, united they fall. Shackled and bound, justice for all. Rise of the new earth, return of the divine crown. So they think they can still use that light, and they cannot anymore. In birthing the new earth, I called back all light, and the heart of the darkness just crumpled. The old earth will literally fall into nothingness until it just dissipates. It will cease to exist. That's the truth. Okay? So, Autism, detachment from a full-bodied system. It's what it is. They cannot connect with all their senses. Have you ever hung out with anybody with autism? I'm not saying there's anything wrong with them as a person. I love them. But you can tell what happened. Like, they can't receive through the system of senses. They can't perceive through the system of senses. And that is who we are as a spiritual basis. We communicate through all systems. The etheric, the energetic, our skin, our smell, our sight, our touch. We're able to perceive through, I can look at your face and tell your emotions. Our system of senses. Emotional system to the physical system, all of it. Okay, so what started happening with these GMOs is it detaches them from the full-bodied system of senses. Our senses of connection, because they're a different species. You can call them reptilians, you can call them whatever the hell you want to call them. Okay, I saw Biden, I saw even in England, the king, whatever his name is, and his wife Camilla, their skin fell off. They're fake. They're not, like, connected to that system. Let's just put it that way. So that's the DNA they're wanting to change you all to. And I also told you who created the last Ovid Co stuff was not China. It was us and United Kingdom. That was also part of the work that I did over the years. Okay. Then came in the calendar of time. So something is shifting with time, and I told you guys that. You know, I talked about train system because it's time. Time, false concept of time, the calendar of time. So the earth, the world is in a bit of a rewind. That's a 3 days of darkness. But 3 years of darkness, isn't it? Reverse awakening. So the darkness is these happenings, okay? But we're going into a darkened sky for what's looking like the next 3 years. Reverse awakening for mankind by undoing the veil of illusion. Layer by layer. So we are reversing all of what was done. It's like a tornado effect coming in and whipping it out of creation. And we will all see it. That's the darkness, the darkened sky. So darkness will separate from the light. It cannot be hidden anymore. It just cannot be. You're going to see it. And that brings me back to Catholicism. Then Catholicism came up. Pope John Paul II. Okay, I need you to be with me. Because last year I channeled about the truth of Catholicism rising, and I didn't understand at the time because I hadn't undone the Sistine Chapel. I didn't even know that was going to come through me to do. That's a whole nother story I've talked about. I don't see these things before they happen. They just, I mean, I'll get little glimpses. I'll paint a painting that comes out of the soul level. I'll do something, and then it happens, and then we're like, oh, that's what that meant. Okay, and then you really can't deny it. But that's only if you're not on an awakening path, right? If you're in judgment, you're in the shadow, you won't see it. Anyways, last year when I channeled for 2025, I mentioned Pope John Paul II. So I deep dived into why Spirit kept saying that. Because I'm like, that is not the name of our Pope. And then they talked about the prophecy of Malachi and all of the Malachi. That's a whole thing, right? So I'm like, why do you keep saying this? Please hear me, because this is our reality we are going into. And one is one path and one is the other. Let me say again. The fallen will not break free from. Okay? Religion must fall from where it came, whence it came. Judgment day, this will not remain. Judicial system crumbling, the structures they built, the fallen will not break free from. Shackled and bound, united we stand, united they fall. Shackled and bound, justice for all. When I undid the judicial system, El Diablo was shackled and bound and could not break free, just like he did to mankind. And Adam and Eve, and Jesus and Mary Magdalene, and Sekhmet and Horus. Rise of a new earth, return of the divine crown. Okay? Catholicism. It's all religion. I need you to understand that. People will go into a division war. Oh, Judaism. Oh, Christianity. Oh, this and that and this and that. None of them are aligned. They stole pieces of the truth. and divided them. Okay? And then put in spackles of yuck in them. So none of them are outside of this. I need you guys to understand that. Listen very carefully. Catholicism, Pope John Paul II, the Pact of the Devil, the Rise and Veil, Reign of Terror disguised in light. It was a reign of terror disguised in light. Pope John Paul II. I'm going to tell you why that name is the way it is. We did have a Pope John Paul II, but hear me very carefully here. Because Malachi said the final one was going to be a Rome. I'm going to look that up. Give me just a second. We're going to get into that. It makes so much sense, and my mind just went bam. I was like, oh, it all makes sense now. Okay, so when I undid the Holy Grail, listen to me very carefully. John the Apostle was the one who murdered him and made his twin soul take his blood, and they wrote a contract of spell casting in his blood, the Holy Grail, which stole his soul on Easter, the resurrection, which was them stealing his soul. The true resurrection occurred on Christmas Day of 22. And before that, we brought down the blood of Christ, and before that, we activated the feminine pyramids, and then after, we activated all the masculine pyramids. Very significant. Jesus is not just Jesus. He's Jesus and Mary Magdalene. They're twin souls, just like Adam and Eve. Same soul. Listen carefully. Pope John Paul II. This is so important. The Pact of the Devil. The Rise and Veil. The Rise and Veil. That's what it says. Reign of terror disguised in light. A false god. A reign of terror built in the darkness by using the light. It was his soul. It was Jesus' soul. The resurrection on Easter. Okay, they stole his soul. If you don't believe me, maybe you're not rising to new earth yet. Maybe you're not awake yet. Watch all the work. I couldn't deny this, and it took me a while to process what I was doing. And I undid the Holy Grail in 22, and we're now in 25, and I'm now finally getting a totality of this understanding. So stay with me. It was not just a body. Pope John Paul II is not a depiction of one man. It is the soul that they would put into. So each new pope, they do a ritual, and he takes on the soul of Jesus. You don't have to believe me. Watch the work. Not just a body. It was shown through ritualistic darkness. Stolen, excuse me. Okay, it was a soul, not just a body, stolen through ritualistic darkness. The Holy Grail, the Holy Grail, the Holy Grail. Okay, on my playlist. I will show you in the very end where to find it for those who don't know. You guys, what do you think judging me is going to do you? Because the proof is there. Last year, I talked about Pope John Paul II and something was coming with Catholicism. And that's about where it stood. It's like the truth is going to rise. I didn't know what that meant. Later in the year, I undid the Sistine Chapel #1, then part 2, and then the judicial system. Then I said how the Pope would die. And I said about Easter not being a true holiday of God. That was the year they stole his soul. And then on Easter, the Pope died. And I was like, I just talked about this. Like, I just said how that would happen. I just said what Easter was. I told you how the Pope would die. I undid Catholicism, the Sistine Chapel. And then lo and behold, he died on Easter. And everybody in the world that's connected was processing this at the same time. The Malachi prophecy, all of this stuff was being processed, and here we are again, but now with full detail of what the heck John Paul II is. Get this. Get this. 7 Hills also came out. So there is a saying about, in the end, I was reading some of the religion, and it's like very weird, and it's very scattered in truth. And they mentioned something about 7 Hills, and I'm like, oh, that's the volcanoes, okay? And they mentioned, what, like 5 volcanoes in here. Kilimanjaro is 3. Mount Vesuvius. Mount Rushmore, Mount Shasta. I don't know why I'm saying Mount Rushmore now, but I'm hearing it. Mount Shasta, Mount Sinai, Mount Vesuvius, and Kilimanjaro. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's 6. So I don't know. Okay. 7 hills. That stuck out to me as the volcanoes. But John the Apostle killed Jesus. So we have John. Listen to the name John Paul II. Okay. So I asked God, I'm like, God, I need you right now to tell me what John Paul II means. Why do I keep saying this? John, the apostle, killed Jesus. Listen. And stole his soul. They named the soul John Paul II. They named the soul John Paul II for after those who stole his soul. John the apostle killed him. Paul the apostle was a Roman. Malachi's prophecy was about a Roman. Okay? Now, I'm going to get back into Malachi's prophecy. Paul, I'm like, who is Paul? Was there an apostle named Paul? And God's Spirit said yes, and it came up yes. He was the original Saul of Tarsus, who became a pivotal figure in Christianity. Known for spreading the faith of Gentiles. Okay, listen though. He is known for writing much of the New Testament, which they changed the Bible into words that were not of God. I need you to hear me. So John the Apostle is who I know killed Jesus, because when I undid the Holy Grail and I processed his death, he came through as the murderer. He poisoned him with cyanide. I think it's cyanide. You got to watch the video. I always forget if it's cyanide or if it's strychnine. I think it's cyanide. Okay? Then I kept, because I got this in different layers. Then Paul. So it's John Paul II. John, and then we have Paul. Which is why they say the Jewish killed Jesus, okay? So he was a Roman citizen. Roman. The last pope. Okay? Roman. It's the soul. Okay? He was a Roman citizen and Pharisee whose life changed dramatically after encountering the resurrected Jesus. Shall I say that again? Paul was a Roman citizen and Pharisee whose life changed dramatically after encountering the resurrected Jesus, leading him to become the apostle to the Gentiles. He was not an original apostle. He became one after encountering the resurrected Jesus, who John murdered by poisoning through cyanide or strychnine. He bled out of every orifice. It took 20 minutes. It was a very painful death, I know, because I processed it, freed his soul. Then they made his twin flame Mary steal all his blood in that cup, and they wrote a contract they called the Holy Grail. Then on their Easter, resurrection of Christ, they stole his soul through ritualistic behaviors. Or like, because I do spell castings with the gods. They're very real. Our words are very real. And that's what the Holy Grail was. I wouldn't read it. It was written in Hebrew. Okay. And they used it to steal the soul of Jesus. So the Pope was walking around with the soul called John Paul II. John Paul II. Jeshua. It was his soul, who when I undid and processed his death and I undid the Pope stuff, and then I took that back, I walked his soul out in the undoing of the Sistine Chapel Part 2. I literally stepped into him and walked his soul out. I was holding an ankh and he was holding a cross, and I stepped the soul out of his body and I said he will die. It was sudden heart failure. And sure enough, he did on Easter. Roman citizen. He was a prosecutor of early Christians before his conversion. Saw the resurrected Jesus on the road to Damascus and led to the radical transformation and calling. So became a crucial in expanding Christianity beyond its Jewish roots, establishing churches across the Roman world. So, you know, people can blame the Jews, they can blame Catholicism. How about blame John, Paul, the apostles? John the Apostle, there were 4 other people there. When I undid the Holy Grail, God pointed out John the Apostle, but there were also 4 other people there that took part in it. Okay? So they called the stolen soul of Jesus John the Apostle II. Malachi predicted the final pope being a Roman pope. Was it Peter the Roman? Paul and Peter? Peter stole Paul. Paul and Peter? Paul the Apostle. Okay, so let's see here. Prophecy of Malachi. 112 short cryptic phrases, okay, in Latin, which purport to predict popes of the Catholic Church, beginning with Celestine II, okay. Let me get to the final one. The new Pope, Peter the Roman, the fulfillment of the prophecy of Saint Malachi. Let me explain that, okay? The Roman. Paul was the Roman. John is the one who murdered him, poisoned him. It was his right-hand man. John the Apostle was a true apostle, basically Jesus' best friend, whatever you want to call him, right? Jesus was his, what we call him, but it was really Lord Sananda, or whatever, right? He has different names. But anyways, so he poisoned him, okay? They stole his soul. They did a ritual on Easter with the Holy Grail written in Jesus's blood. That's very important. This is why we needed the blood of Christ to cleanse. That is why I sprayed the Sistine Chapel with the blood of Christ before I undid it. This all makes sense now. I didn't understand it at first either. So Paul the Apostle was a Roman. So let's put this together. After I undid the Sistine Chapel and the judicial system, he died on Easter, which was the false resurrection where they used the Holy Grail to steal his soul, which they called John Paul II, which I just learned today. But I've said it a couple times. I didn't know why. Okay, are you with me so far? Then, after Easter, I channeled about the new Pope. The new Pope is El Diablo, because he no longer had the soul of Jesus, which is why Peter the Roman is the mark of the end. The fulfillment of the prophecy of Saint Malachi. So Pope John Paul II, which they used that name at one point too in a pope. But what they do is they take his soul and they put it into each pope. That's what they showed me. So they don't have that soul anymore. It's been undone. So is the Holy Grail. So let's read this again. It was not just a body. It was not just a man named Pope John Paul II. It was the soul of Jesus, okay? Through rituals of darkness, which is what people talk about in Hollywood. They talk about all of it. There's no coincidence. Pope John Paul II, the pact of the devil, the rise and the veil, reign of terror disguised in light, a false god, a reign of terror built in the darkness by using the light. The final pope is El Diablo. Shackled and bound, united we stand, united they fall, once and for all. We are going into the 3 years of darkness. But you also need to think about the darkness as testaments. That everything we're going to be tested through, you choose the light or you don't. Okay? It's amazing. How do we deny this? This is like so... I'm processing this through. You have to watch my videos. Watch my predictions from last year. Watch all of the videos that talked about the predictions from last year, because I judged why I talked about John Paul II. I didn't understand it. And I did not ask about it then. Over last year, we undid the Sistine Chapel. I was attacked during that time. It was extremely painful. And now, then I undid the judicial system. That work is on my channel. I do it in workshops. I just channel it all. And I do the work. I draw the light in. I move the stuff. I do the stuff. And now it's circling back in our reality. That's everything that I've done. Okay? That's how it unfolded. And I recorded it because during my awakening, I was doing healings first. And they were not normal healings. And I don't want to be sued. I don't want somebody to go into their ego and be like, oh my God, she said all this medical stuff, so da 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 da. No, that's not my responsibility. So I started recording everything to protect my butt. Then the workshops came, and I recorded those too. And I looked at God one day and I said, thank you. You are so wise. Because he had me record everything. It's all right there for you. So we are going into the 3 years of darkness. 2026 predictions also lead into 27, 28, and 29, which is the 13. Prepare for the darkened sky. So much love, my friends. Okay, so we're in the very beginning. They want me to repeat this. Leadership falls. It's not just the White House. Leadership falls from what we once knew, and stay the course is what you must do. No matter what happens, you must continue rising to the light. No matter what happens, you have to rise. Because as the light rises, so too will the darkness, because it's been separated. There's no more veil of illusion, and you have no more false god to anchor in confusion. May God be with you. I'm so excited. Till next time. Bye. Oh, before I end it. So I do this a lot, and I didn't want to overwhelm those that watch me all the time. Bear with me. I'm going to show you where to find those videos, okay? For those who don't know my work. Hopefully my computer works with me. I'm going to take you to where to find all of those videos. Very easy, very simple to find them. I'm going to show you where, okay? Okay. So this, I'll give it a second. It's taking its sweet little time, so hopefully it corrects itself. But this is my channel, okay, that hopefully you can see. It's my YouTube channel, my main YouTube channel, which was opened many years ago for my kids and never used, and then I used it. So I really started posting videos back in 2020, I believe. But this is the playlist you'll want to focus on. However, every one of my videos is relevant to the return. Okay, it's been my whole entire twin flame journey, battle, everything, because I almost died. He did die. I got a walk-in. Like, the whole entire channel is pertinent to the return. But this playlist is what you want to focus on. Return of Christ unfolds here. And I started uploading them as God told me to. So it came from the very beginning. At first I processed his death, which I knew it was John the Apostle. But I didn't understand everything else yet until later. Cleared Mount Shasta, part 1, which was not of light. Cleared it, processed all the souls that were there, and then eventually returned the root chakra back to Fiji, where it belonged. Activating Fiji, which was the first pyramid I activated. It's a feminine one, and it was also the God portal. So there's a couple of these ones. The sun healing, I started healing the sun and the moon. The false concept of time, started unprocessing that, removing us from the matrix. Ascension pathway. Prometheus came in and said, watch, watch, and then split the earth in two. More pyramid activations of the feminine, more feminine pyramid activations. Then I started downloading information about the Sphinx and clearing it and awakening it, which was the portal of time. It's got a big, huge black, kind of like a black hole underneath it, which came in later because Horus returned through there after I undid the Nile. And then all of this stuff, I started activating a dormant chakra system, processed where Eve died, which was at Lake Titicaca, but at the time it wasn't called that. It stretched to Machu Picchu. Machu Picchu ended up being the portal of Atlantis. Okay, there's a pyramid there that I activated in Machu Picchu as well, so it all connects. Then I started realizing that I was undoing the collective shadow and the individual shadow. It's both. It's important to heal both. Then I downloaded where Atlantis really was. And then my twin flame union and battle really hit tenfold, and I started battling very hard for that. It took me a year to battle my DM. We united at a soul level. We were together physically. Then when our souls united, some weird stuff happened. He took off and began battling the journey, and God married us. And the attack on me and my DM, I didn't understand it. It all happened on my channel, which was embarrassing to me. It was really hard. I was trying to understand it without understanding it. Okay? And that went on for quite some time until God said enough. I won my soul back, by the way. I remember the day I was given that soul fragment back. And then once we cleared his soul, because remember, it was stolen. Pope John Paul II. This is finally starting to make full sense. Then once that happened, I got a walk-in DM. During that time, I brought down the blood of Christ. This actually really happened, and I didn't understand it. I was like, why would I really need to cleanse with blood? That's kind of not really God. I get it now. Then we undid the Holy Grail. When I got a new walk-in twin soul, which took about 3 months to process and acclimate to, he was supposed to come, but I ended up undoing the Holy Grail by myself, so I was a little upset about that, but it happened on Christmas Day of 22. That's the true resurrection. God called it the resurrection. He told me to call off work and do a live, so I did, and that's what came through. The whole truth. John the Apostle, everything was there. There were 4 others. They made Mary gather his blood. They wrote a contract, called it the Holy Grail in his blood. So I cleansed it, and I called his blood back, and I undid the Holy Grail. Then we activated the masculine pyramids. Then Sekhmet started processing, and who that was, that blew my mind. I'm like, oh my gosh. And then the Eye of Horus and the Eye of Ra, it made full sense. Adam and Eve started coming through. Then I did more pyramid activations, Nigeria, Botswana, Zimbabwe. There's a reason that came in there, because we ended up connecting one of these to Kilimanjaro, so a feminine pyramid to a masculine one, restoring the true earth grid. Then I dried the Nile, and I realized there was 13 gates, not 12. Okay, and 23, Mount Shasta Part 2, which was supposed to be my DM doing it, so it was painful to do. And that is where Archangel Samael, not Samuel, Samael burned. El Diablo, okay, part of that. So he was part of the fallen angels as well. The Ankh being the cross, GMOs. I told you, look at over 2 years ago, I talked about that. It's part of the apocalypse phase. Look at that. More work to the sun and the moon continually, battling the DM continually, truth about the Sphinx, resurrection of Christ and uniting the twin flames, okay, what the collective must really know. All this just kept coming through. Then this was more work. Some of these are talking, some of them is the actual work. This was the 2113, realigning the north, east, south, and west, and the west back to the north. So there's no coincidence about the pyramid activations and when they came. This was a part of that. So I took a female pyramid and connected it to the masculine pyramids, which was at Kilimanjaro. Then I processed Seer's death. And then I found out that the King Charles and his wife, their skin fell off. They were reptilians, which the internet does not have an image of a reptilian. It was a lizard, so there you go. More undoing of all this stuff. And this is when my DM finally took on the soul of Jesus, which blew my mind. I did not see that coming because, again, my first DM didn't make it, so his soul stayed in a flower. They put it in like this beautiful tulip flower after I cleared it. It didn't go up, which blew my mind. I didn't understand it. This is why not everybody will ascend. Religion is a key part of that. They'll just anchor into it. They won't choose to see. Mount Shasta, why did I clear it? Cut it off life support. It was the red dragon, actually, which came through later. Why were snakes significant? Then Horus returned through the Sphinx. Okay. Then we began, I undid all of the systems from the money matrix. Religion started undoing here. Okay. And this was after the, so then the predictions, I think, came through in here somewhere for 2025. They came before I undid the Sistine Chapel, which is right here. So this was part 1. Undoing the Sistine Chapel, part 1. Undoing the money matrix. It just all started processing through. Okay. And before that was the predictions. So let me find that really quick. Where's my predictions for New Earth? They're in here somewhere. So I did the predictions for New Earth prior. Here it is. I predicted the fires and something will be exposed. Okay, so this was talking about my prediction video. Sometimes they got uploaded out of order or listed out of order. Here it was. 2025 predictions, Vatican quake, Exodus of Egypt, someone passes and we find out who the DM is. Oh yeah. Yeah, look at the Pope saying goodbye. Oh, Biden in there. Also the England, the Tower of England begins to crumble and burn, which has been happening. I've been hearing that a lot. Somebody on the crisis line even told me they left Europe because of what's been happening. I'm like, oh. Stuff with money starts changing. All the airplane crashes. I talked about the fires. Like, it's all in there. Okay, so these are important. And I talked about John Paul II, and I didn't understand why. So at first I was like, and so I talked about it some more. I was like, wait a minute, there's something there. I shouldn't deny it either, even if I don't understand it, because we tend to do that, right? So then the 13 gates, heaven on earth, okay, talked about all of this. But then I also did, so here is Assisting Chapel Part 2, okay. St. Francis's heart stopped, so I actually walked his soul out, said how he would die. There's a bunch that came in through here, especially a message from God about the end of days is now. Then the river of justice is the Nile. We have to cross that to make it into New Earth, which energetically you will be judged, but it's not judgment. It's where your heart is and your choices. So it's all about you and what you chose to do. De la Muerte, and you can just say love, but that's not actually doing love. There's a difference between saying love and doing love and being love. And then this is when I undid the Supreme Court. They called it De la Muerte. Reap what you sow. El Diablo, shackled and bound. Okay. Then Prophecy of the Three Nights, 3 days of darkness. And then the Red Dragon. Downloading that was Mount Shasta, and I had to draw a white dragon. What God Says Next, Death of the Pope, Final End Times Prophecy. Okay. Downloaded Clarity of Easter, the False Resurrection. Look it. But people don't want to see, right? Or they weren't ready yet. Spiritual bypassing, picking and choosing what you see. That actually came through recently too. So, my friends, this is all there for you. Enjoy. There's a lot to do, but we always have time for God. What are you using your time for? Use it wisely, I'll tell you that. So much love. 3 days is 3 years of darkness on the rise.